Yeah.
All right. Welcome, one and all. Jag Blitz, episode 17, the lost episode. I'm your host, Lawboyd. I'm here with my wonderful, super excited co host, the MC Wale. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm great, specifically knowing that we didn't accidentally skip tonight's show. We purposely are doing it. So this is good. Getting back on the right track.
I know, right? We are a wonderful stream slash podcast. We cover everything and anything Jaguars. We consider ourselves a good alternative to local radio, even though I have heard from the grapevine, local radio in here has improved a little bit.
It kind of has, low key, but I still say that we are definitively better. Definitively better.
Yep. So we'll kind of go over because we had taken, we'll call it a hiatus. I'll use the word you use.
We'll just say the Thanksgiving holiday.
Yeah, Thanksgiving Day holiday. Fair enough. We are going to cover quick game overview of game 9 and 10, and then we'll do Gus Gonometer, and then we'll look ahead to game 11. So we'll hop into quick overview of the last two games. So what's your quick takes here?
Let's see.
Thursday night and then Sunday.
Looking at the Thursday night game, that was an ugly game, but it was an ugly win, and you can't get mad at that. That was a game that they had to fight hard to get back into it, and thank God for Rashad Green's 63-yard return to set up the touchdown to Julius Thomas there in the end zone to kind of seal that one away. And then last week's loss against the Chargers was kind of inexcusable because your first offensive possession, you literally drive all the way downfield, and then you get bottled up for a field goal. And then halfway through the first half, all of a sudden your offense becomes completely inept, and you're not able to do things the way you want to do it. And ultimately, that along with a late Blake interception coming in late into the first half, and just poor offensive execution in the red zone leads to a defeat.
No, I'm right there with you. I mean, for the most part, Thursday night game, lots of hype, very excited, beat the Titans. It was a nasty, boring game.
Yeah.
My wife went, and she was sitting there. I almost felt like if she had her knitting material, she would have been knitting because it was literally not a very good game. Happy for the win, though. Andre Branch got the sack at the end of the game and somehow has become a great player all of a sudden, and people don't want to replace him. I don't know why.
People are dumb. That's why.
Yeah. Chargers game. I took a friend of mine who is a very, very, very casual football fan, and the whole time he's looking up at me like, Lawrence, why are we doing this? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why we're not giving TJ the ball anymore after he had 47 yards in the first half. Like, I don't know these things. I don't know why our offense fizzled out on the first three possessions all the way down, made it to the red zone and kicked 3 field goals. I don't know why after the Blake interception, a bunch of people left, and it was just like droves, like, and I'm like, what? I mean, we still got plenty of time left, and it's like, I don't know. After that touchdown to Julius, that the Jaguar sideline was celebrating like they had won the game, and everybody was like reconverging on the coach. I don't know these things, man.
Yeah.
Because he's sitting there. He's a very avid basketball watcher and fan. And he's like, I just don't understand. He's like, you guys are still down by 5. Like, why are they celebrating like they just won the game? He's like, we gotta. He's like, why isn't the head coach pulling everybody on defense specifically? Because we got a defensive guru coach supposedly. They're like, okay, guys, we're still down by 5. We need to stop. And then,
It wasn't even a stop. You needed the onside kick to get it to happen. And
well, that would no, because we still scored right before. I'm talking about even before then. We scored before good old Philip Rivers 4th and 7,
right.
and that's what he was talking about. Because we pretty much left like after Philip Rivers just got his
Yeah,
4th and 7. My buddy's looking at me like a puppy dog, like, can we please go? I was like, fine.
You can't even blame him for that though.
No, and as I said, he's a very casual fan. He's trying to get into football, and we're leaving the stadium, and he's like, this is so deflating.
Right?
This is so. He's like, I feel bad, and I'm not. He's like, I'm not even like a very avid Jaguars fan. He's like, I'm a fan because you're a fan, and I like coming with you, but I feel bad. And then we got home, whatever. My wife was like, yeah, when that onside kick happened, there was nobody in the stadium, like literally nobody. And so that's kind of the issue that I had. And then of course the pressers or whatever afterwards, where we have one of the most terrible defenses in the league against the run, and we stopped the run, or we stopped running the ball rather, and then our red zone execution was just absolute garbage.
Terrible.
Absolute
Terrible.
garbage. I think it was like 5 or 6 red zone opportunities, and we scored 2 touchdowns.
I think my favorite thing from Sunday was that even though Myers was like I think it was 4 or 4 or 5 of 5 of
Yep,
extra field goals,
he
he
missed the
misses the
extra
extra
point.
point, and people are like, "We got to cut him because he missed the extra point." Get real.
Yeah, I
Like what?
know, right?
Get real. Like that's not the big issue. The big issue is you couldn't score in the red zone. If 3 of those field goals were touchdowns,
Yeah, the
that
first
game's a
three.
runaway.
That's what my buddy that came with me. He's like, oh, we need to be ahead of the game. We need to be ahead of the Chargers at halftime at 9 points. He knows this.
Right.
He knows that we can't come back in the second half. So he's like, we need to be ahead of the Chargers at the halftime at 9 points. He's telling me, I'm looking at him like, how do you know this? Like, you have come to me with one other game, and you know that we need to be ahead by 9 points because we don't score more than 7 points in the second half. Like, how do you know this?
He's aware. He knows.
And that was kind of we'll roll right into the Gus Gonometer, in a sense that in Gus's presser, when they're talking about why did you stop giving TJ the ball, he just kind of shrugged his shoulders like, eh. And then when you talking about Chris Clemens and good old Branch, well, they had a solid performance. I'm sitting there going, is this your life?
I'm gonna fight every single person in there. No,
It's-
it's not that serious. But the Gus Gotometer, it's at a 6.
Oh, it gone up?
It's gone up a little bit, and the reason it's gone up is because it's getting closer to the end of the year.
Okay.
Because I think even if he gets 6 wins, I think that he hasn't shown enough like true natural coaching ability to be like, all right, I feel confident into bringing you back next year. Like someone made a good point. I think it was Matthew, the real MBB, real MBB on Twitter, who brought up the point that like after the season's gone, if you fire Babbage, you know, Doug Marrone, he's on a 1-year deal. He could probably walk and find either better coordinator job or get a sniff at another head coaching position. Jerry Sullivan is probably going to retire, and then
Yeah.
you're already losing like 4 or 5 key members of your staff. So at that point, you might as well cut bait with Gus and just rebuild bring in a new staff. And obviously, I know that a lot of people early in the season wanted to let go of Dave, but I think now they've come to their senses and realized, okay, it's not a talent thing because the talent is still finding a way to keep themselves in games. So at this point, it's got to be coaching. How do we fix the coaching? We bring in a better coach.
Yeah, I'm still where I'm at, 8-9. And it's one of those things to me where having a very I'm not throwing my butt into the bus, but I mean, having somebody that doesn't know a lot about football and is a very casual fan and gets a lot of their information from just research on the internet and casually watching when he's with me or hanging out or whatever, and ask me like, yeah, he doesn't like religiously watch Jaguar games or whatever, but and that was the thing to me during the game where he is comparing, and I know it's not a stretch, but I know that they're completely different sports, basketball and football, but it's one of those things where he's like, how is this head coach just so unaware of what's going on during the game? And
He's right.
and doesn't he's just sitting there, he's just like, hey, especially when before the onside kick and all that stuff, before the 4th down and 7 with good old Phillip Rivers, where he's like, how is somebody that's not that is supposed to be super defensive minded not pulling the defense aside while the offense is celebrating the touchdown, saying, hey, we got to get the ball back, like we got to stand strong, maximize your positions, da 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 da. And then when the defense goes out, is immediately going to the offense like, okay, we're gonna get the ball back in 4 or 5 plays. be ready to go back out there and score because we're still down by 5.
Right.
And that's the thing that I haven't seen from Gus all year. And specifically his whole tenure here is I haven't seen somebody that is willing to pull people aside on the sideline. And Matt kind of said the same thing. Gus seems more of somebody that's going to correct stuff after the fact. Not in game, not in a press, or not in a whatever. It's, I'm going to correct this after the issue has arisen. And you can't do that in the NFL. You just can't do it and be successful, I want to say. I don't think there's another, if we're talking about top head coaches and top franchises, the one thing that they're able to do is make adjustments on the fly.
Right.
And make adjustments and say, hey, whether it's on the fly at halftime, and then just say, hey, I'll take the blame. I mean, that kind of thing. There is no, you're not going to hear Bill Belichick, Mike Tomlin, Bruce Arians say, oh, I don't know. I mean, you're just not going to, we're talking three.
I mean, or if they do it in completely out of sarcasm.
Yes. Yeah. They're not going to sit there and say, well, I don't know why we didn't hand, our running back that was, almost halfway to 100 yards against one of the worst rushing defense. I don't know why we didn't hand him the ball. That kind of stuff. That is just one of those things where my Gus Gottmeter has stayed where it's at, is that this this casual Jaguars fan is going like, what?
It's bad when a casual fan who doesn't watch all the games can realize what a lot of people, I guess, in the organization may not be able to see. Am I calling for Gus's head? No, I'm just saying, look, there are some fundamental issues here with the coaching.
Yes, and it's not to say that Gus can't be a head coach, but it's similar. I don't want to compare him to Josh McDaniels, but it's very, very similar to Josh McDaniels in a sense. You have somebody that's a very, very, very good coordinator and then goes to be a head coach. Josh McDaniels did the same thing in Denver, and he ruined a lot of relationships there, pushed people away, and says, hey, I went back to Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick told me that I did wrong, so I feel like I'm good now. And I feel like that kind of needs to happen with Gus in a sense that, yeah, you weren't stern enough. You didn't hold people accountable enough. That's what we're talking about. And that's another thing my buddy was telling me. He's like, how do you hold people accountable in this league? He's like, oh, who was it? I'm trying to think. I think it was Marquise Lee dropping him the ball. He's like, you need to send his butt to the bench. You're not playing the rest of the game. Sorry. Done.
Yeah, that's not how it works in the NFL, though.
He has that basketball mentality. Like, how do you, and I told him, I don't know. He's like, how do you discipline or hold a player accountable in the NFL for their poor play? Because the last couple of drives in the second half, there were a bunch of drops. And
that's what you do. You cut them.
I mean,
but we can't afford to cut any of our guys because we're just now getting to the point where our roster is okay.
I know that, but I mean, there's got to be a point where you go through, and he was talking, like with Clemens and with Branch, he's like, our pass rush is terrible. What are you going to do with these two guys? He's like, sit them, say sorry. And that was one of those things where and I don't want to say the NFL is inferior to the NBA and the MLB, but it's one of those things where there needs to be somebody in the NFL needs to make it to a sense that if sitting you is a more penalized thing than, say, even the Premier League, where somebody can get kicked out or whatever for a game or the rest of the match or whatever, there needs to be a bigger penalty for poor play.
Right.
And I just don't know what it is. I'm not knowledgeable enough to know what the situation is, that if you have somebody that is consistently underperforming because they're not listening to coaching, they're just not giving enough effort, like, what do you do in that situation so that you're not continuing to pay them while they sit on your bench? And they're like, I don't care. I'm still getting paid. What does it matter? That's kind of where I'm at.
That's fair. I feel it's fair enough.
All right, so let's go through. We're looking ahead. Titans. We're playing the away game. What are your feeling here?
This should be a game we win, but I feel we're going to lose. That's a shitty way of feeling, but that's the truth. I just feel that the Jags, honestly, they have a lot going for them and a lot riding particularly on this game. I'm looking at ESPN right now, and they say that there's a 58% chance the Titans win this game at home,
Wow.
which is disappointing. You know, I'm looking at Blake. He's 50. No, he's 48 yards away
48
from throwing.
yards.
Yeah, 48 yards from throwing for 3,000 yards. Obviously, 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. T.J. Yeldon, 621 carries, 621 yards on the season, which is pretty good for a rookie, if we're being real. And then obviously Allen Robinson, who's got 927
He is so close.
yards, and he's so close.
So close.
You know, it's going to be disappointing not having Allen Hurns out there on the field, but having Julius Thomas, having Rashad Green, and hopefully, maybe
Walters.
we see something from
from the
Marquise Lee, from the
Albino
Albino
Tiger?
Yeah, from the Albino Tiger. And then
Jeez.
defensively, I mean, yeah, they got worked by Phillip Rivers, but it's because they had so much time to throw.
Yep.
If they can try and rattle Mariota like they did on Thursday night a little bit and get to him, they might stand a chance. The secondary itself hasn't played awful. It's just
No.
you can't cover for 6 seconds. It's impossible.
No, that to me. So my biggest concern is Delaney Walker, because our wonderful, aka Paz, made good old Antonio Gates look like the young Antonio Gates.
Right.
And that and I'm not saying that Mike Mularkey is going to work magic, but I have to feel that his staff has got to have looked at the tape and said, hey, Jaguars can't cover tight ends to save their life. We had 3 touchdowns to tight ends for good old Phillip Rivers, 4 touchdowns. So that's got to make the sense, right? Like, if you're going to go through and you're going to sit there, okay, how do we attack the Jaguars? It's got to be over the middle with a tight end and Paz. Like, you hope that Paz is covering, like, oh, anytime Mariota's like, oh, I got Paz, throwing his hands, here we go. This is what's going to happen. So that's where I'm at there, is that they need to do something with covering the tight end. It's got to happen, because we are getting just burned every single time. The other stuff, I get it. I'm okay with that. Like, I understand. I would be more happy with if we would just let the running back kind of bend it, not break material, where we were just shutting down the running back and giving up to tight ends. I really wish we would stop doing that, because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to let tight ends, and Delaney Walker's a great tight end. I'm just saying, against the Chargers.
Great is a little overstretched.
Great, he's good.
He's good.
He's good. That we're letting tight ends just feed, and that's kind of where I'm at there. The issue that I have is that we have no pass rush. You have 2 weeks of tape that they're looking at. They're looking at the Thursday night game. They're looking at the Chargers game. And the Titans are pretty much at this point where they're like, where do we sit in the draft? We don't really care. So they can ruin our season, because we're 2 games back out of playoff contention, which at this point in time I don't really think we have a snowball chance in hell.
Right.
Because both the Texans and the Indianapolis Colts, for whatever reason, keep winning, and I don't know why. Like, I keep praying to the football gods, like, why? Like, why?
They're not hearing us right now, man. They're just ignoring.
40-year-old, Matt Hasselbeck continuing to win games, and how is, Houston winning against teams like the Jets with Hoyer? I'm
right.
Like, how are you winning with Hoyer? And the the concern that I have with both those teams is they're getting healthier. Clowney's coming back. You've got Andrew Luck that's going to come back. I don't know if they're going to start Andrew Luck versus Hasselbeck, but those teams that were decimated by injuries early in the season are getting people back, whereas we're continuing to lose people, whether it's Hearns, Walters, other people that are getting hurt, and that's kind of my concern. So, should we win this game? Yes.
Yes. Will we?
I don't know. And that's the thing. I mean, Mariota has looked good and great at times and bad at times. So that's where I feel like there's kind of this thing. Blake has got to cut down on the turnovers.
He only threw 1 pick. It was just a bad time picked.
I know. And it was like a weird, like crazy pick by Te'o. because he threw it and had like that crazy leap or whatever to get it. It wasn't like
It
he
wasn't a
threw it.
good throw by any stretch of the imagination.
No, but I mean,
It was also a really good play by Monte Teo. You have to give him credit.
but yeah, true. But Blake, in a sense, has gotta cut down on the turnovers, and also he has gotta not throw over the line of scrimmage twice
Twice.
in the game.
Yeah. I laughed the first time, and
The
then I
first
think
time
I
was
cried
like,
the second time.
like the first time in the stadium because of the camera angle, they weren't showing it like they did on TV. I was like, well, he looks over, he looks behind, and the second
He was
time,
over by like 6 yards.
yeah, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, never mind. When I saw it on ESPN, I was like, nope, he was definitely way over.
Right.
And so it's got to be some of those mental errors he's got to clean up. Whereas, again, in the end zone, those 2 times where he was over, I'm like, he could have ran, and we either would have got a first down or at least been closer to a touchdown to then do a goal line versus being over the line of scrimmage, losing it down, and all that good stuff.
I just say you back it up to the 21 and then score from there. Because obviously you can't score inside the 20.
I don't know what's up with our red
Red
zone,
zone?
offense. I mean, it is
It's not
bad.
good. It's just not good.
How do you have Julius Thomas, Allen Robinson, and TJ Yeldon and Blake, mobile quarterback, and somehow not score touchdowns and buckets is beyond me. I know, like,
You're like Kobe Bryant. Shoot your 45-yard shots and see what happens.
gosh, you brought in. Oh my gosh, you brought in Kobe.
Yeah, I did.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. We should win. I don't know if we will.
I hope we win. It'd be nice.
Yes, it would be
Get
great
me close to
beat
that
the
6 win
Titans.
total, fam. That's what I want.
It would definitely. That's what I had predicted before the season started was 6 wins. And yes, it would be very, very nice. But at the same time, the way the season has played out, we should have 10 or 11 wins.
Well, I mean, I'm not playing that game.
I mean,
That'll just make you sad.
I mean that to me should be the overwhelming like, hey, this is why we should get rid of Gus because we should have way more of that. So, what's your prediction Sunday? Score, everything.
Let's go 24-21, Jags.
All right. Let me think here. I'm thinking less than that. I'm thinking like 17-14 Jaguars.
7-6.
7-6. Oh gosh. No, I'm
I'll take a
thinking
nap. I will nap during that game if
I'm
if
thinking-
that was the case.
I'm thinking finally TJ gets another touchdown in the red zone. So
He
he'll
only
get
has one touchdown.
I
Like
know.
one.
He'll
How?
get 2. He'll get 2. 2 for the season. And I think we will win on a Myers kick like in the 4th quarter.
Fair
You know,
enough.
and he just like, DX from good old WWE, like
WWE, WWF.
just does that, over and over again. So that's where I'm at.
I'd be about it. I'd laugh. Actually,
I would laugh, that way to shut up all the people like we should bring back Scobie. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Scobie's fine. He's enjoying himself.
Yeah, not on Twitter. He's just enjoying life.
He's laying low. He's spending some time with his family and just kind of regrouping. It's
Why
all
not?
good.
Why not do it?
Exactly.
All right, fam. That's it for us tonight. We shall be on hopefully next week. Depending on what happens in life. So
We should be back next week, probably around 8:00.
That's good. I'm your host again, Law Boyd. You can catch me on Twitter right above me, Law Boyd. You can catch the MC Wale.
Somewhere right up here. I don't know
it's
where
up
it
there.
is.
Yep, boop, boop, boop.
There it is.
Thank you for anybody that catched us. This will be posted to YouTube very shortly. We will catch you all later.